This is Transqat, a safe space to stand. Transgender issues, queer people, respectful conversations. I'm host Clare McCarthy. Welcome to Transqat. This is the second Transqat episode scheduled for release in June. Last time, with the Darling Divas, we explored drag as a vehicle for social progress and community building. Today, we're looking at a noble effort to improve the lives of LGBTQ plus students. The JS Bryant School is located in Cummington, Massachusetts, about 30 minutes from the Northampton-Amherst area. I'm very grateful to Alex Tenari for assembling this panel. We have the school's founders, administrators, and even some students stop by. Before we start, though, I wanted to point out a news story that you might have understandably missed. After all, our attention is being drawn to the war in Iran, the spiking cost of gas, and, well, everything else, UFC fights on the White House lawn, and the reflecting pool looking like Kermit's armpit. In November 2024, Sarah McBride became the first openly trans person to be elected to Congress. Immediately, Nancy Mace, a representative from South Carolina, introduced a bathroom bill for the U.S. Capitol. She repeatedly misgendered Representative McBride and said it was offensive for Sarah to consider herself a real woman. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson expanded the ban to trans and non-binary staff, interns, and visitors, and put the new policy into place 2 days later. Well, this month, Mace was soundly defeated in her bid for governor of South Carolina, leading the New York Times, no friend of trans people, to the headline, "Mace Defeat Heralds an Exodus of Rabble-Rousers from Congress." Representative McBride's response?
And for those of you who aren't aware, my colleague and Congress's top bathroom sheriff, Nancy Mace, is on the ballot. And while not all of the votes have been counted yet, she is in a respectful 5th place. I don't like punching down, and I believe in the politics of grace. So all I will say is, happy Pride, Nancy.
So I'm Ben Betterson, he, him. I'm a co-founder of the school, and
Ben, what school is that?
Good point. The school. It is the JS Bryant School, and it is a private therapeutic day school in the Berkshire foothills in Cummington, Massachusetts, that just opened this past September, inviting, welcoming, and supporting LGBTQIA plus high school students.
It has most certainly been a difficult year to be a queer teen, and particularly a trans or non-binary teen. So we definitely want to get into that. Alex, your voice has been on the show before, but this is the first time we've combined voice and picture.
Yes, thank you. So great to be here, Claire. I am the Director of Admissions and Enrollment, and I have been working in that capacity for a little over a year, but I was volunteering with the school before that for about a year, maybe longer. So it's great to have seen the growth of this vision really come to life, and been fantastic to welcome our first cohort of students and families into the school.
Well, where did this start? Where did the idea start from? We have had, I should back up and say that we have had on the program before Patty Nicolari, who is from the Proud Academy here in Connecticut. So some of the issues of need and trauma therapy for some of these kids we've touched on before, but let's start with the origins of JS Bryant.
Maybe I'll get started on that, but first, can we just say hello to Izzy first?
Yeah. So my name is Izzy Shive. I am the Community Administrative and Student Support Lead at JS Bryant School. I first came in contact with the school almost exactly 2 years ago. I was woofing for the school, and that's a work trade program. It's an acronym that stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. So I was like farm apprenticing for the school with our director of farming, Pepper. So I was sort of doing a lot of goat care and planting trees and using my brain and my heart in that way. And then I started as a community engagement consultant in September of 25. And then once we opened, I moved into a full-time position where I do kind of this triangle.
Well, Ben and Alex, we were talking about where this idea came from and how it germinated. So if we could roll back the clock just a little bit.
It's not surprising to hear that everybody comes to the school from a deeply personal place in different kinds of ways. I co-founded the school with my wife, Allison, who hopefully will be able to join us a little bit later today. And she is the head of school and traveling to develop partnerships with the school as we speak. And we have a trans son and who is doing great and amazing in many ways. And like really in all ways that I could hope for. But he went through it. And that was before the political climate. And that was with, we're not perfect, but we're pretty supportive parents and family. And we're just looking at each other and we're like, wow, if this was this hard for us with just incredible resources and privileges, just how tough is it? And now the world is getting so much tougher. So anyway, we decided we wanted to build the school we wish we had when we were supporting our son through his teen years. That's really how we came to the idea.
Your son's difficult challenges, was that at a public school or at private schools?
He was in Maryland and in private schools and super supportive places. And, everything was good. And still, it was just incredibly hard because you can be in a good place, but that doesn't mean everyone's good. And certainly not all the other students are good. And he still had to figure out who he was. And that's hard for everybody in the best of circumstances and the easiest of circumstances. So, and then we had COVID. And so that didn't help because right as we were trying to help him get good support, all of a sudden sort of visiting programs disappeared and there's oh, well, you could join us online 10 hours a day. Yeah. Well, that's not gonna work.
And Alex, at what point do you get involved?
Thinking about it now, maybe it's been 3 years that I've been involved. So I was living in the Berkshires. I had been living in the Berkshires for almost 30 years. During COVID, I moved down to New Jersey to take care of my mom. She was in the last stages of an illness. So I was there for 3 years. Caring for her. And when she died, I moved back to Massachusetts, but I didn't move back to the Berkshires. I moved here to the Hill Towns, and I saw a sign up about JS Bryant School that volunteers were needed because at this point, the school was just really at the stages of trying to get some of its facilities in shape and needed just more hands. I had already decided that I was going to give myself at least half a year, maybe a year, just in my own grieving process before I started to work full time again. So it was perfect. And it was exactly what I wanted to be doing. So I just showed up every Friday and did whatever needed to be done, including scraping cow poop off of the barn walls. What can I say? It was a lot of fun.
There are not too many schools. I mean, that's 33 years as a teacher. There are not too many schools where you have to scrape the cow poop off the walls before,
So we did a lot of trail clearing and, maintenance work in that. But really the thing that connected me, besides just knowing of the vision and knowing that I could be part of helping this amazing place get started, were the people. So, I immediately met Ben and Allison. I met Pepper, the farming director and outdoor education director, and just their just way of welcoming me in and creating such a wonderfully safe learning environment that was also fun. I just knew this is going to be this is going to be good. I want to be a part of this.
What would each of you say was the biggest challenge for you in getting to last September and opening the doors to the kids and doing the work that is the heart of what you want to do?
We had a vision of opening as a residential school because that's what as I said, that's what we saw there was a huge need for, and we saw this nationally. So I would say that we started off with a great deal of youthful enthusiasm. We started off with the idea of opening up at this incredible farming campus, this historic farm that we had access to. I mean, it was an incredible vision for the facility and the process, but I think the reality is we just had a slightly bigger, our mouths were bigger than our stomach, and I think we didn't quite realize just how hard it was going to be and how many steps it would take, and how hard organizationally, administratively, approvals, and facilities, and the timeline and price of the facilities was significantly more than we expected. Not like twice more, like multipliers more than
exponentially
that we had anticipated. But this is a big part. While we have always had from the very beginning incredible enthusiasm from many quarters, raising philanthropic money as a nonprofit for an organization before it's an operation, it turns out is the single thing that was dramatically harder than I was expecting. So anyway, we did make a big pivot a couple of years ago to shift focus away from the farm, work in a smaller facility that we were able to acquire as an organization, and renovate that to open as a day school. And we did spend 2 years with the first developing ideas that we learned from, and it enabled, actually the grand vision I think helped to get everyone excited, because the school is part of a long-term big plan, and I think we will get back to where we started. But to get to opening, we had to scale back our expectations a bit.
This piggybacks on what Ben was talking about, because of course, being the director of admissions, I'm looking for students, right? And I know that the need is out there. The need is great. And when we first were getting the word out, we were getting a lot of calls from Texas and Tennessee and California, and right. So, there's all this need all around the country, particularly for trans kids, a safe place for them to go to school, that doesn't just, that's celebratory of who they are and has a peer group there that they can really identify with. And yet, we're a day school. So then it was the challenge of really making inroads to our local community, which, like Ben said, we have very good relationships with the local community, a lot of support here in Western Mass. And we are a therapeutic school, which means we are serving teens who not only identify as LGBTQIA, but who are experiencing mental health challenges, social emotional challenges that are actively getting in the way of their learning. There's a very specific way then that most of those students come to us. There's actually 2 ways a student can come to us. So one is through placement, through the IEP process, through their public school district. And that is a wonderful opportunity for students when they are placed with us, and the school districts pay, so the money follows the student. So you can imagine that the process is followed pretty stringently by the public school districts. They really try to serve that student themselves before they refer out. The other way that students come to us is through private pay. We're not just a private school, we're a therapeutic school. So we have a therapeutic price tag because we are providing all those specialized services. So that's also something that's a bit different for families in the area. When they're thinking private school, they have a certain price tag in their, head. We're I think the second lowest, tuition cost of a therapeutic day school in the state of Massachusetts, but it still has that higher cost associated with the higher level of services. So I would say the challenges were navigating those things to welcome students, into our doors. And it remains something that we're navigating and figuring out with the public school districts, getting them used to the fact that there's another, therapeutic day placement available, which is very needed. But we're new, they can't tell their families, oh yeah, we know this school, we've been working with them for 5 years, we're a new place. And that is, can be scary and difficult as something that they don't know, they can't hear a lot about, from alumni or past parents, things like that.
It's kind of what Ben was saying, that the best of intentions are still just intentions. Mm-hmm. And so that, hearing that there's that initial reluctance, not surprising.
Yeah. I mean, what happens is when families come here, they love it. They definitely want to have their teen come here. But then we sort of, a lot of the families that we see have removed their kids from school because the schools weren't safe for their kids. Mm-hmm. So now to get a school referral, they have to re-enroll their kid at the public school, go through the whole process from square one, right? Which is a very painful process because there was a reason that they took their kid out to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. Or, okay, now you can send through private pay. So we're seeing a lot of that where the kids just really haven't been attending school. And unfortunately, the systems that are in place are not tailored to those students.
I second both of those obstacles. And those pivots have yielded such amazing things. Like, I feel like a slogan of our school could be like, we pivot and uncover something even more exciting. It's been really interesting building like community relationships, trying to especially focus, like Alex was mentioning, like it's an obstacle that we have seen as a school is trying to get the word out about us safely and being really mindful of the like real risks that come with the wrong kind of exposure, especially for our group of students, especially in this political moment, as you know. Yeah. So we've had to be really cautious and give real discretion to the ways that we communicate, especially with press, which then places a lot of importance and a lot of excitement on like those kinds of words of mouth, local face-to-face relationships. So we have been at that table. We did 10 Pride events last year, which was amazing and so fun. And I think you probably did just as many. Claire, I feel like
we kept running into each other. Yes. I wanted to say thank you to both you and Alex for when we were up in North Adams Pride, mm-hmm. And the wind picked up my pop-up tent and smashed it into pieces on the ground. You two helped me pick up the pieces, so thank you.
I will never forget the three of us like shoving it into the trash can.
Yes. Yeah. I do want to come back to that question of doing what you're setting out to do safely for yourselves, for your faculty, and most of all for your students. But Allison, let's bring you in.
Hi, Allison Druin, pronouns she, her, co-founder and head of school for the JS Bryant School. I'm honored each day to share space with the staff, the students, our board, and the local community in general, in our mission of enabling and empowering the LGBTQIA teens that we do.
One of the things that has sort of run through what Alex was saying and then what Izzy was just finishing up with, these kids and their families, this is the first time that they're really coming together as a unit, right? These are not people who have known each other previous to JS Bryant.
No, they absolutely have not known each other. The first time those parents, the first founding parents met each other, they didn't leave for 2 hours. They were
on that first day of school.
On the very first day of school, we had put out some coffee, and we figured that they would talk a bit, and then we would get started inside. They were on the porch and they were chatting away. And I turned around an hour later and they were still on the porch chatting away. And It's really, it's many of them said to me in different ways that this is the first time they've been able to be with other parents that really get the experience that they have been struggling with, and that they have their journey is not so different from another parent's journey here.
There are groups like PFLAG, obviously, and there are plenty of online support networks. But the chance to do that, to just sit on the porch next to somebody and say, "Hey, did this ever happen to you?" Or "How did you blah blah blah?" That's just priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. And they are so kind and they are so supportive of each other. And they're excited about the school. So while there are other nonprofit organizations that have been filling the void of this connective tissue, this is much more tightly connected because they share the same space of where their students are, where their kids are, and and we are actually now gone to. Every other month, we are meeting with parents on just a parent cohort meeting, and this is quite separate from family therapy they might have with their kid or in any way. But it's really important because we feel very strongly about the importance of co-design of our school and a voice that's really important to the school, our parents, guardians, the people that bring their kid every day.
And what are you hearing? What do parents want? I mean, obviously, a safe place. I get that. A place where they're seen as themselves, as their authentic selves. But in terms of curriculum, in terms of we keep using the word, it's a therapeutic school. What are those programs?
Before we get to this, I want to say just reflect on how you were just describing how some of the parents react. I wanted to say at a high level how we see some of the our students react. Right, we see on paper some of these students that are getting referred to us with school refusal and coming at it from seemingly very, very difficult. I mean, not seemingly, from really difficult situations and experiences, and they show up, and you can almost see it in their faces. They come in with some hesitation, and then they realize pretty quickly, oh my goodness, I'm in a place, perhaps for the first time in my life, where I can perhaps be myself, right? And it doesn't take that long, I think, for our students to realize that hope is actually something that is true.
So we're very different than a mainstream school in the sense that we really prioritize student wellness and student autonomy and choice. So, for example, we have the whole way that the school day is set up is geared toward creating space, different accommodations that are helpful for all the students. So we gather in the morning and we have a morning circle. And first we have a grounding activity at morning circle. It could just be a breathing exercise. It could be feeling parts of your body, right? But just something to bring everybody into that space. And then we have an opening question of the day. Sometimes they're philosophical, sometimes they're whimsical, but it's always a lot of fun. And we each get to know all the students better because we're there and they're answering a question about, what their favorite character in a book is, or where, they would want to spend the weekend. So we do that, and then we have a student voice portion of our morning circle time. So students can bring up anything that they might want to be changed in the way that we do things. Sometimes it's just, simple, like this, we want more of this kind of snack, or, and sometimes it's a bigger issue, right? But students are always welcomed to provide that during the student voice time. And then every single one of those things is followed up on in a very timely fashion, I have to say. So it's not like a just saying one's preferences into the void, but it's taken quite seriously. And we talk about these things as a staff and we act on them. And then throughout the school day, we have interdisciplinary courses and, let me back up. There's wellness clubs that happen at the beginning of the day that are often incorporate art, sometimes role-playing games. Izzy did improv the other day with the students, which was fantastic.
Ooh.
But it's often based upon what the student interest is. And then we have interdisciplinary classes. So we have 5 core courses at the school: personal identity, worldview, community leadership, environmental activism, and creative activation. We don't have, math, science, right? Like that. So, so all those skills and knowledge areas in the traditional courses are wrapped into the interdisciplinary classes. But since there's only 2 of those a day, students really get to immerse themselves in interesting discussions and interesting topics. And there's not this rush of like, every 50 minutes we're going to a new topic or new class.
Where your entire day, your entire learning is defined by bells.
Right. I mean, we have no bells. And we have a sensory room, we have a lounge, we have a space behind the nursing office where students can just hang out, take a breather, read, self-regulate, using lots of different techniques that they learn while they're here. Lots of fidgets, students can use like earphones if they need it. I mean, we have whatever a student needs that's really going to help them be more regulated so that they can learn and be engaged here, not only in the learning, but also with their peers and during the school day. That's fantastic. So,
and with the world outside.
Yeah, and with the world outside.
Right now, at this very moment, in the next room, we have a bunch of students on the floor with a baby goat.
Wow.
This is 4 Arrows. It's the story of Carrie Cullinan, who discovers at age 5 that she has healing powers. Unfortunately, those powers come with strict limits and a hefty cost. It's magical realism set against a backdrop of queer history, but really, it's a story about love, family, and finding your place in the world. I hope you'll pick up a copy and spend some time with Carrie and her family. I love these characters very much, and I think you will too.
I want to jump in and say one could imagine what Alex just said, and even what Izzy and Ben just said, could happen in a non-queer school. Okay, it could be just good schooling. But you have to say to yourself, what makes this a queer school? What is the queer school of the future? Okay, and part of this has to do with community and the community connection. We're waiting for the next thing to start, and I'm sitting there and a few other staff, and then like 4 other students, and somehow we get on the topic of bathrooms, okay, and how horrible bathrooms are, and particularly public bathrooms. And the kids start sharing stories of horrific experiences that they have had to live through. And it has nothing to do with cleanliness. This is about the bullying, the trauma, I have to run a mile to get to a place to pee because that's the only all gender bathroom, to kids are screaming at one of our kids their dead name over and over again. I mean, absolutely horrific things, and they're sharing these things, and one of our kids says, wow, that's the first time I've actually said that about what happened. And so while we define our areas of, okay, now it's time for wellness club, and now we're all gonna talk, now we're all gonna work on wellness, I would contend that what is very special about the school is that it's just in time therapy, just in time community, just in time connection. And it's a relaxedness that can be queer. Has anyone told you about our Friday tie day experience that happened?
No.
Okay, so one of our kids was telling us for a while that he had a lot of ties, and for whatever reason, he decided that on a Friday he was going to bring in all of his ties and show us his ties. And he lobs like this giant mound of ties. Everyone starts giggling. We all start putting on ties. We're talking staff, students, I mean, the laughter that was going on all day long because I mean, you could hear staff giggling at each other because they were sending pictures of each other. Anyway, and I had asked the kid, I said, so why do you have so many ties? And he says, it's an act of resistance. And now let's just remember this is one of our trans kids. And and so proud of him. And at the end of the day, I asked him, so how was your act of resistance here? Well, how did it feel? And he said it very like calmly, it wasn't an act of resistance. And I said, oh, what happened? He said it became an act of joy. And he decided he was going to donate a lump of his ties, some portion of his ties, and he put them into the clothes closet for anyone to pull out a tie when they needed it. We all can enjoy identity together. And in any way. I mean, half of us didn't even know how to tie a tie. So, we were all getting taught by this kid. And, it's just so fabulous. Oh my gosh. And we've since told this story on some social media. And people, whenever I go to community conversations, they give me a tie. I've gotten ties to put into our tie collection because people understand that. Wow.
Izzy, you were doing improv work with the kids. And when Allison, when you were just describing this tie thing, what struck me is that rule one of improv is that you say yes and. And it's a skill that really transcends, and people think of improv as, comedy on a stage with a black wall behind you. But that is a life skill that is so important to be present and listening and to acknowledge it and then add to it.
I agree. I even remember in my life the first time I learned the concept of yes and it was a bit of a paradigm shift. Like it did not seem natural when I first heard it.
I prefer no, but.
Yes. And I think that is one way to do it.
The improv went really well. It was really fun. Yeah, I'm always surprised by how many takers I get. And it's like we started with some of the easier games, the chiller ones, and then kind of ramped up into like full on gibberish scenes. And I had some really spirited gibberish going on. And it also it's hard. Like it was, I feel like, right up against the edge for a lot of us of like, oh, this is like difficult and I'm a little bit embarrassed and like this is a new peer situation, but I don't know. They're stars. Queer kids. Well, of course. They're superstars.
They really are. And the whole yes and I think too is just 100% applicable to social emotional learning and feeling a feeling and not having it necessarily result in a certain action, right? There's that whole sort of navigation that we do with all feelings are good, all feelings are okay, all feelings are healthy, and not all actions are, and those are two separate buckets of things. And that can be a very difficult thing to learn and understand and tease apart. But the yes and, I think, really helps with that. So anytime we can apply the yes and, not just in the playing of the improv, but in life here at school, I think is so valuable. I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I can do this thing, or whatever it is, right? It doesn't need to be that, but I think it's a helpful, super helpful phrase.
Yes. And in those not so supportive environments that these kids come from, it feels to them like the entire infrastructure has been set up on somebody else's terms. There's the administration that might or might not be supportive of you. You were describing these horrific incidents of that kids had in something as simple as, I'm going to go to the bathroom now. Just traumatic experiences. And so it's really not until you can get out of that sort of, all right, just survival is my goal, and I'm just gonna react. It takes a safe place, and that's what you've created, a place where we can talk about that, and it doesn't have to be where your only options are what somebody else has set up for you.
And I think,
you guys, I have a student who wants you to say hello really fast.
Fantastic.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Welcome, student.
Hey.
And how's the school year been going for you?
Awesome.
There might be people listening, like parents of queer kids or other queer kids might be listening to this. Tell them why they should consider coming to JS Bryant next year.
Well, it's very supportive, and there's like a lot more, like I feel a lot safer here, like expressing myself. I feel calmer, and like I feel more open to talking about how I feel, and also like I'm able to like really just take care of myself here. And it's
Fantastic.
also very fun. Yeah, we do a lot of fun stuff.
Wait. Education is fun? Hold on.
Yes, very fun.
That's not what I was told.
We have been reading like a couple of books, like one about Rosa Parks.
The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks.
Yeah, read the whole book, and then we're doing a project on like writing a children's book, which is very fun.
What's your children's book focusing on?
It's focusing on like sort of like what segregation was like and what it was like for Rosa Parks.
So, group, what can we do in this moment? We have a student with us to bolster what we've been talking about.
Can I ask you, wonderful, amazing student, can you describe what's special or not special about our library?
Well, I have a lot of books like that are more like have more inclusivity of like the queer community, and like we did like a lot of processing in the library too. I'm actually like sort of like the assistant, the library assistant.
Actually, you were a really good teacher during the last volunteer day. When
Yeah.
you were sitting in between two adults in your room. We had 9 volunteers, but this student was sitting between 2 adults so that when they ran into problems putting in the data into our database about the book, this student could turn around and actually help them on the fly because this amazing kiddo actually has been putting in books since day one.
And the reason there's so many books is that the school has put out, a need to develop our Pride Library, and the community has been remarkably generous. And books just literally show up in our mailbox and in our doorstep, or someone will say, "Oh, I've got this book of my special Pride Library bookshelf, and I need some more space." And I decided that this is where those books should go. And so I'm not sure that there are a lot of other libraries quite like it.
I'm gonna go, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Because we don't have a whole lot of staff to obviously staff the library, that student and I have basically spent a lot of time together, basically shelving books and inputting things in process. And we got just this massive influx of books. And we both looked at each other finally and said, it's time. We have to bring in more volunteers. This was after the day when 2 shelves fell on my head of books, and the student came running down, and I'm screaming at the top. And and she looks at me and she says, "You can't die for the books."
I don't know. I've kind of fantasized about going out that way, but that could just be my problem.
Can we say we're talking about curriculum? I want to talk a little bit about outdoor education. You know, we said that we have goats, but so why do we have goats? So our outdoor education, which is every day, is our PE. But it is like everything else that we teach, it's a very holistic kind of education. And so while we're not a farming school, we do have a few acres of farming, small farm that supports the school activities. And the reason for it is like all the things we do, it gives a very authentic reason to do specific things. So you're not going to go look up in a math book how to convert linear square feet in a rectangle to count the number of acres, right? You're going to go walk it and measure it and figure that out. And then when it's time to water, because we don't have a lot of water in July and August, well, we can start to figure out how much water we need. And are we pumping enough water from our well? And so, and we can use that to talk about nutrition in terms of what we're growing. And we can talk about life cycle because, right, our bodies are such an important part of our growth experience for any team and for obvious reasons, especially for the students at our school. The ability to talk about life cycle events in the context of a goat that you are taking care of and in fact literally watched get born last week, right? Some were born overnight, but twins was born during the school day. And so, you know, that's a pretty serious experience that then gives an opportunity for all kinds of discussion that can connect to many other aspects of our education. And one of our goats died. A goat that some of our human kids were holding just a few days before. This is hard stuff, but it's serious and but it's authentic. It's real, but it's also still slightly safer than a death in your own family, right? It is one step removed in a way that is authentic and real and serious, but also one that is in a loving and caring environment.
We just this afternoon had our first burial of that goat who passed away, and our farming director is just a very thoughtful person and someone like really connected to land and to like the rhythms of nature. And they just really like thought about the best way to do it, which included like preserving the body so that the students were able to like spend some time with her body today in a non-fearful way and like a really loving way. And we did like a few different grief rituals as we did the burial. Like students helped dig and we like marked the grave in a really beautiful way. And it was just like so lovely and very sad. Like we're all just grieving and crying over the death of this really sweet community member. But I felt like we were all so held by one another. Like staff's holding students, students are holding one another, and we're all kind of held in this container of this really special school. And then afterwards, like we went and spent time with our baby goats, with our living goats, and got to just kind of like love and connect in that way. And that experience is just like such a far cry from any academic experience I've ever had.
Right.
And just feels like so meaningful to me. Like that is the kind of space that I want to create for the next generation of like thinkers and feelers.
Yeah. So you're building community in a very real way. You are supporting one another. You're encouraging input from the students. But at some level, a school needs to be dealing with assessment as well.
We are really, really proud of what we have become involved in terms of assessment. We believe strongly that in a project-based approach, and that in fact we we finally decided that there would be no grades, that it would be a mastery transcript kind of experience. And so we actually joined the Mastery Transcript Consortium, and along with hundreds of other high schools, colleges, and so on, that are basically assessing through rubrics and through a really, really rigorous way of looking at skills and at capacity, and basically looking at a capacity based learning. And so and what's lovely about being a part of this consortium is that over 740 schools, colleges across the country will take these transcripts, will actually take the assessments that we're creating on a trimester basis, and also trickling down into how we assess project by project. And they will accept those transcripts, and they will accept those students in some students if they meet the rigorous standards of their school. And so actually we had just announced this to our parents at our last back to school afternoon, and the parents started throwing out names of colleges. Well, is this college in? Is that and you know what? Almost all but one college was in that list, and they all went, "Oh, this is exciting," And yet, do we think every student is going to go off to college? No, we don't think so. But we know what's really important is that students need to know not just the outcome of learning. They need to love learning, and they need to know how to be a learner the rest of their lives. And that's the goal. And we do this through interdisciplinary, project-based, land-based, and integrated with wellness, our projects. And so, when that student was just talking about the book, that book about Rosa Parks, every single project, the students and the staff bring their own lived experience of being in the queer community. And thinking about being an outsider, thinking about what does it mean to, to be harassed, to be disrespected, and so on. And you bring that into the rigorous work of a book about one of the leaders of the civil rights movement. So that's how we're doing it. And we're just in the beginning stages of it, but our parents are excited about it. Our students are understanding it and appreciating it. A number of our students had really bad experience in previous assessments in previous schools. And actually, one student just didn't even want to show up for the assessment because they were that worried that they would just hear yet again how bad they were. And it is not about who they are, it's about what they can do and about what their goals are, and that every student has different goals, but has to move into change.
I mean, there was a time when it was really just Hampshire and Oberlin that approached assessment that way, and I'm so delighted to hear that others are picking up.
So Allison and I, just before we got here, we were professors at the University of Maryland for 20 years, and I was in computer science department, and I gave my tests, and I did all kind of the regular things that were expected of professors, because the University of Maryland actually has a campus-wide requirement that every single course must have a final exam in every undergraduate course. And Allison, who taught at the information school, just didn't give final exams. She would have mastery-based assessments as a junior untenured professor. And I was like, Allison, you can't do that. You're not going to get tenured. You're not going to succeed. You're going to get caught. You're going to get in trouble. And Allison said, huh? What are you talking about? I was like, this is a requirement. Let me show you this policy. And she's like, eh. And you're not going to get away with this. And she's like, eh. And 20 years later, when we finally left, she goes, by the way, do you know how many final exams I ended up giving in that 20 years? None. And I think the reason the school is the way it is because Allison has a skilled, thoughtful, intentional way of thinking about what's important and being aware of the requirements and rules and choosing which ones are worth fighting against. And my role is to make sure we meet all of the requirements behind the scenes. And
Right.
so that's part of the reason why Alice and I think are a good team. We worked together for a long time to both meet the requirements. We absolutely are meeting the educational requirements that the state and the districts require. And we're doing it in a way that is supporting our students and meeting our philosophical and personal vision.
Yeah,
It sounds very meta, Ben, because part of, well, sort of the core part of being queer is that you are rethinking what society has said. Here's the binary. Here's how family and marriage and career work. And once you start approaching things from a queer perspective of, well, does it necessarily have to be that way? Could it be better some other way? Then you open up all of these possibilities, and that's what we've spent the last hour hearing from you folks.
I do have to jump in and say it is so not just about me, okay? You know what? Guess what? This school could not be and do what it's doing without every single staff member, okay? And that, when we hired these amazing people, we believed that they had that same vision and mission and so on, and it's been so true. And so, I mean, what Alex does in terms of admissions and supporting our students when they get here, and I mean, and every single one of our staff members is like that. And so, no, even if I wanted to make change, I can't do it, and I couldn't have done it without an incredible staff. And our staff, I mean, everyone is queer, and I'm a deep mama ally. Okay. And so, to be honest with you, that's also part of the specialness of the school. Though, of course, one of the kids just recently told me that he thought I was a good head of school because I was pretty queer, even though I wasn't queer.
Wow, what a
That was
compliment.
it had to do with my listening to where he was coming from, and that I missed a cue. I didn't realize it, and I said, "Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? That's amazing. Oh my goodness, tell me more about it." And he said that I was probably one of the first person to like acknowledge like I didn't hear something, I wanted to learn more. And apparently that made me sort of queer. And I thought, oh, yay! So
I want you to use this program to talk to those parents, those students out there who need your school, and tell them why they should get in touch. But before I turn it over to you, the one question that I haven't asked yet is the name of the school.
So I was talking earlier about we started with this at this farming campus and thinking about a slightly different approach to opening the school, and that campus was at the one of the children of William Cullen Bryant, one of the major American poets of the 1800s, and grew up and then died in Cummington. And he had two daughters, and this farm is adjacent to the Bryant homestead, and it was for his older daughter ended up living there, but his younger daughter, Julia Sands Bryant, JS Bryant, supported his business, supported him when he was old and needed physical support. And when he finally died, she was 40 years old, and then finally decided to live her life. And the way she did that was to move to Paris with her same-sex partner, which the New York Times called her, quote, chum, literally in quotes. Chum.
That's even a step down from companion, I would have
Right.
to say. That's not.
So we decided we were at that point really spending a lot of time at this farm, and we were just looking at the land and the history of this space, and we wanted to name the school to recognize the strength that this person had to go actually finally be her authentic self and live her life, but also to recognize how sad it was that she had to wait until her 40s and to leave the country in order to do so. And so we named the school after Julia Sands Bryant so that no other person should have to leave their family and country to be their authentic selves.
So, final words go to each of you.
Many of us have our official title here, and then we have our much more meaningful, important title. So my title is Harbinger of Hope. And I really do believe that this school is the place where the kids who have been in pain for so long and their families who have just been searching, they cannot find the right place for their LGBTQIA teen, especially their trans teens. We are the place that provides that hope. And when families come to us, they then contact me again and say, your title is so perfect because this is the first time that we have really felt this glimmer of hope for a safe, healthy, joyful future for our kid. And so, that brings me a lot of joy. And then we hear from the kids who tell their parents, they love school and they want to be here. And this is the first time that they felt that way in years. We're here for you.
I'm not staff of the school. I'm a co-founder. I'm on the board. I'm the CFO. I do a lot of things behind the scenes. I do the technology and the facilities and all kinds of things to make the school run. And so my alternative title is Head Unicorn Wrangler, because I need to wrangle whatever unicorns need to be wrangled. But my avocation at the school is to provide educational opportunities for students that are making things, whether it is with technology or with their hands. I have a woodworking shop in my home, which is just 15 minutes from the school. And so I actually have, I think, 3 students that are going to be doing their summer internships with me, which I'm so excited about, or maybe two or three students, that are doing some computer projects and some woodworking projects. And we are, pick your language, small but mighty, or another way to think about it is we cast a big shadow in that while we may be a small school, our community of supporting people is so big that we have experts and professionals that are there to help our students that make it look like we can provide the services of a big school in a way that you would not possibly expect in a small school.
Okay, I have another JS Bryant School student with me. The question was just sort of, what do we want to say to the people that we are looking for? What do you want them to know about JS Bryant School?
Okay.
Prospective students, what makes this school awesome?
Well, this has probably already been said, but having just the freedom and the respect that we get from all of the staff and all the care that they give us in every day is just something I've never experienced. And I've been in a lot of different educational institutions, and I find it really powerful and really magical just to see how much energy and kindness that they put. And it's so authentic and it's so beautiful, and I'm very honored to be here.
We've talked a lot about community building over the past hour. Tell me a little bit about your experience of that at the school over the past year.
I mean, I just joined like 2 weeks ago.
Huh.
And I felt immediately accepted by everybody in the community, staff, students, the animals, everything, and was really amazing and not what I was expecting at all. I usually, in my experience, it takes a long time to get your way into a community, especially with teenagers, and especially one that's tight-knit. But I found it so easy, and I was immediately just able to make friends with, I would say I'm friends with everybody on the staff and all the students, and I have never had that experience before anywhere else.
I mean, my parting words to anybody listening is that our students is what makes this school amazing. the brilliance, the kindness, the community building. Just queer teens are where it's at, and it is the privilege of my life to be able to support them.
I'm honored to see our JS Bryant School students. They lead acts of joy. They look into each other's eyes. They find their stories. They find their community. But most importantly, our school, we remain impatient, disruptive, and we keep asking, I think, important questions as a school. I mean, why does going to a public school to another school have to be an act of resistance rather than loving learning? And why can't our learning journeys be a path to support mental wellness? And, why can't all of our lived experiences be valued with dignity? So if you put all that together, I have to say that here at the JS Bryant School, all of us, our staff, our students, our families, we're all a part of a legacy of love and learning and hope. And what a wonderful honor to be a part of it. And we hope that more and more people can be a part of it as well.
Alex, I know I said that was the last question, but tell folks how to get in touch.
Sure. So you can find us at jsbryantschool.org. Our website has tons of incredible information. You can reach out to me at alex@jsbryantschool.org. If you don't remember that, you can just do info@jsbryantschool.org. You can give us a call at 413-634-6001. So reach out in any one of those ways. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. At JS Bryant.
JS Bryant School.
Okay.
Bryant School. Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for your time. This took us a little while to put together, but I'm so happy that we got the chance to sit down together. I know that I and all of my listeners support what you're doing, and can't wait to see what you do in year 2.
Claire, I wanted to say one last thing, which is we're a 12-month school, so we're not ending. We just keep on going.
All right, so open enrollment. We accept students year round.
Rolling admissions.
That's a crucial part.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
great.
Rolling admissions. So contact us anytime. We are here.
So do it now, folks.
That's right.
Go call now.
You don't need to wait.
The phones are open.
Yeah, that's right. If I call now, do I get a tote bag? Because that really
I'll find you a tote bag if you call now.
If you enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you did, consider other education-themed episodes. Episode 14 was a conversation with Patty Nicolari, who has been working to establish an LGBTQ school here in Connecticut. Episode 17 was a mosaic of voices from an event to raise awareness of Nicolari's Proud Academy. And episode 28 was a conversation with then Secretary of Education, remember when we had a Department of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. If you've picked up a copy of my novel, 4 Arrows, well, first, thank you. Second, please consider writing a review online. It can be brief. I want to get this book in front of as many eyes as possible, and reviews on Goodreads, Amazon, or social media really help. Up next on Transqat is a conversation that sex educator and friend of the show, Kim Adamski, helped put together. We'll be discussing the kink community. This has been Transqat. I'm Claire McCarthy. Thank you for listening. Let's talk soon.
This is Sadie McCarthy. I'm Claire's niece.
And you've just been listening to Transqat. It is made by one of my favorite people in the world, Claire McCarthy.
Transqat is a production of Transqat Enterprises, LLC.
Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.
Join us on the web at transqat.com.
That's TRANSQAT.com.
QAT.com.
QAT.com.
There you'll find links to Transqat, the blog,
writing projects,
speaking engagements,
and our PayPal donations page.
Please consider
consider supporting our mission with your monkeys.
Monies. Your monies.
Your monies. Not monkeys.
Please consider supporting our mission with your monies. Any monkeys will be gratefully received as well.
Follow Transqat on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
On TikTok, we are at The Real Transqat.
Want to tell your story on air?
Or ask Claire a question?
What is the deal?
She has all the answers.
Or suggest a guest or topic for an upcoming episode.
Use the contact page at the website
or email her directly at crmtranscat@gmail.com.
crmtranscat@gmail.com.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.